Let's give each other 1 full month of freedom before the wedding, no questions asked, no consequences. Do you accept it? That was the first time Lance laid his betrayal and indulgence bare before me. In that moment, it felt as though the air had been sucked out of the room, like someone had reached into my chest and stolen something vital, and I was left to make a choice amid the silence collapsing around me, to submit, to fight, or to uncover the truth he'd been trying to hide. He smiled calmly, even tenderly, as if he already knew he held the upper hand. I held the wedding invitation in my hand, the edge of the paper sliced my fingertip. The sting was cold, but it brought me briefly back to reality. The air was filled with the scent of baked cream. I had thought it would be an ordinary afternoon, an afternoon about cakes, invitations, and wedding colors. But now, the only sound in the room was my heartbeat, loud, heavy, pounding in my ears like a drum of dread. No matter what I chose, this month would decide our ending, and whether he would stand before everyone in shame and regret. What do you mean? I asked, closing the oven door. My hands were still dusted with flour, that white powder clinging to my palms like a disguise. I rubbed hard, but couldn't erase the humiliation. Lance leaned against the table, his posture relaxed, fingers tapping rhythmically. 1 month, he said, eyes steady and cold. Both of us free. No blame, no guilt. Then we get married, with no baggage. I stared at him for a long time, until the phrase, no baggage, sliced through my mind like a knife. Are you joking? I heard myself laugh. The sound was brittle and dry, like light glinting off broken glass. You just came back from your bachelor trip, Vegas, wasn't it? Isn't that freedom enough? Even to my own ears, my voice trembled. The effort to sound calm made me nauseous. Lance's smile tightened, like a puppet pulled on its strings. That was just a gathering with friends. Don't overthink it. I just want us to handle any potential regrets before we tie the knot. To handle regrets? I echoed, with a bitter smile. I pressed the invitation into my palm, its gold lettering glinting cruelly under the sunlight. In other words, you want me to sleep with someone else for a month, and then marry you as if nothing happened? For a fleeting second, I saw panic in his eyes, a flicker of guilt. His face stiffened, unfamiliar, like an actor caught in the wrong costume. Not just you, he forced out, his tone too calm. Me too. It's fair. The air froze. The world went silent except for the faint clink of porcelain. My mind roared with blood, drowning out the sound of my own breath. Give me 5 minutes, I said quietly. I walked out to the balcony like fleeing a collapsing stage. I needed time, to untangle what his proposal really meant, and to face the signs I had ignored for so long. The wind carried a faint floral sweetness, but to me it smelled of rot. I closed my eyes, and the memories came. Him pretending to be caring before my family, only to call me too sensitive behind my back. Me seeking comfort during my hardest days, only for him to laugh with friends and say, she's always emotional. Me suggesting trips together, and him brushing it off with too busy or not realistic. Those little things, seemingly harmless, had stacked up, brick by brick, until I found myself trapped inside a gentle prison. For the first time, I realized that what I thought were compromises were actually his ways of testing my limits, and I had been retreating over and over again. The next day, I didn't refuse him. Nor did I accept. That calmness came from disappointment long fermented. I went to see Windsor, Lance's friend, the one who had been with him in Vegas. The cafe smelled of roasted beans. Afternoon light slanted through the window, gleaming off the sugar jar. Windsor kept stirring his coffee, again and again, as if he could dissolve guilt itself. What do you have to tell me? I asked, setting my bag down. My voice was low, but sharp. He looked up, eyes flickering with conflict. That night, it wasn't just drinking, he said, swallowing hard. Lance rented a room. There was a girl, Whitney. Things happened. I know this sounds awful, but you deserve to know the truth. The truth. The word fell like a chunk of ice. I leaned back, my spine cold. Whitney. Room. Secret. Each word felt like a nail driven into my chest. My fingers brushed the invitations in my bag, symbols of happiness, now stiff and heavy as iron. He's been seeing someone else? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Windsor nodded, then downed his cold coffee in one gulp. The days that followed were a blur. Lance smiled as usual, gentle, composed, as though nothing had happened. But I began noticing details. He came home later, his shirt carried a perfume that wasn't mine, his phone buzzed more often, and he always swiped it away when I got near. One night, I found a hotel bill in his jacket pocket, with someone else's name. When I confronted him, his face twisted with panic, but then he turned it on me, accusing me of being distrustful, paranoid, closed-minded. He even demanded that I use the month of freedom to prove my openness. I agreed. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed clarity. I needed to see everything laid bare. That night, he spent 2 hours getting ready, changing clothes, spraying a cologne I didn't recognize. I sat on the couch, watching him adjust his hair in the mirror. He looked like a stranger. Like a child newly licensed to cross boundaries. I didn't go out looking for someone. Instead, I met Windsor. We sat on a park bench, wind biting at our faces, leaves rolling at our feet. After a long silence, he finally whispered, "That night in Vegas. Lance didn't just spend money. He left a tip. He did things you wouldn't like." "What did he do?" I asked through clenched teeth. Windsor's lips trembled before he spoke. The bathroom flirtations, the money on the table, the explicit texts with the woman from his gym, Rumi. As he spoke, my mind didn't collapse. It went silent, razor sharp. A cold calm rose from within me, not sorrow, but precision. If truth had surfaced, I wouldn't waste it on tears. I would turn it into evidence. I began gathering proof, not for revenge, but for coherence. Screenshots, recordings, bills, messages, they filled a gray folder that lay in my drawer like a nest of silent knives. I set 3 rules for myself. Never lose control in public. Record every conversation. Trust no convenient explanation. These weren't to guard against others, but against myself, to stop emotion from blinding me. I knew then that I could never go back to being the woman who believed love could fix everything. I wasn't his obedient partner anymore, I was the witness determined to drag truth into light. My goal was clear. To make Lance's true face visible to everyone he valued, and to let him pay for his deceit, not with blood, but with exposure. Days passed, and the rumors began to grow, seeds sprouting quietly through whispers, vague social posts, guilty glances. I didn't push. I didn't deny. I just watched. Everything unfolded as planned, controlled, precise, and coldly elegant. 2 weeks later, the explosion came. At a dinner party, bright lights, clinking glasses. Lance in his favorite blue suit, smiling effortlessly as he moved among the guests. I sat quietly in the corner, fingers tracing the rim of my glass, listening to Windsor's uneven breaths. Alcohol loosened his tongue. "That night in Vegas," he murmured, loud enough for nearby ears. It began as whispers. Then someone leaned in. Then gasps. Then murmurs spread like ripples through the room. Within minutes, the air was heavy with tension. Lance's mother's smile froze. His father's hand stopped midair. Rumi, corner of the room, her laughter died, hands trembling. I sat still, watching. Inside, something tightened. Justice, long restrained, finally stirred. Lance's smile cracked. He lunged toward Windsor, shouting, "You're drunk." But it was too late. The room was already buzzing with speculation. When we got home, he was wild-eyed, shirt crumpled, reeking of alcohol and fury. I handed him a glass of water. He snatched it, drank, then slammed it down. "Why did you make Windsor say that?" he demanded, voice trembling. "You humiliated me." "Humiliated you?" I echoed softly, fingers resting on the wedding invitations, those gold letters now shining with mockery. "You begged for freedom, and you betrayed trust. You're right, humiliation doesn't come from others. It's self-inflicted." He was panting, veins standing out on his fists, fear flickering behind his rage. "You'll ruin everything," he hissed. I didn't answer. I was done being the woman who always yielded. I didn't want vengeance, I wanted truth to speak for itself. Then came my final step. The wedding meeting. His stage. His pride. I invited his father's old business partner, a church sponsor, and several relatives. The hall looked elegant, white roses, silver cutlery, polished calm. Lance was in his element, smiling, shaking hands, blissfully unaware. I opened my phone. The email was ready, the Vegas receipts, Windsor's recording, the messages with Rumi, the photos of them too close at a party. I exhaled and pressed send. The quiet click sounded like a gunshot. Seconds later, the shift began. Phones buzzed. Brows furrowed. Lance's smile froze. He looked up at me, panic dawning. "What is this?" he demanded, grabbing my phone, fingers white. "The truth," I said, voice flat as glass. "You wanted freedom, I gave it to you. But freedom comes with consequences. You wanted no questions asked. Now everyone gets to see what that really means." He grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "You can't do this. Those were in the past, we can handle this privately." Privately. That familiar word. The word he used to cover his sins, the cage I once lived in. Privately? I smiled faintly. "You've hidden behind that word too long. Let others decide for once." Murmurs filled the air. Awkwardness, shock, shame. The church patron frowned and stood, his mother trembled, eyes glistening. Lance lost control. He pleaded, denied, accused me of framing him, until his anger boiled over, hands shaking as he nearly overturned the table. I watched, feeling no triumph, only deep, measured fatigue. "You'll regret this, Sarah," he shouted, voice breaking. "You'll lose everything." "Maybe," I said softly. "But I won't be invisible anymore. You wanted freedom, now you're free to face the fallout." Time froze. Everyone watched him, this once graceful man, now red-faced and trembling, his dignity collapsing in public view. He stammered, tried to justify himself, but every word only dug him deeper. The lights caught his face, exposing every crack. He looked like a shadow stripped bare, fragile, transparent. He finally understood, no charm, no status could shield him now. Before everyone he valued, he became small, desperate, and pitiful. The proposal was cancelled. Not because I shouted, but because no one believed him anymore. Trust, the thing he prized most, was gone, and that loss was punishment enough. He tried to fix it, explain, apologize, but his words were empty. The man I once loved was gone. All that remained was a hollow shell, his charm, his poise, his perfection, thin paper, ready to tear. His parents' reactions were swift. Shock. Then anger. His mother's tears. His father's cold silence. They stopped defending him, stopped hiding the truth. Business partners distanced themselves. Friends drifted away. His flawless facade was shattered beyond repair. I watched him unravel, not with joy, but with a quiet, somber calm. Revenge, I realized, isn't glorious. It's a slow peeling away of illusions, until only truth remains, naked and undeniable. Windsor still contacted me. He didn't offer excuses, just quiet presence, guilt flickering in his eyes, mingled with genuine care. We signed the final separation papers on a sunny day. The wind lifted the curtains softly. I packed Lance's things into boxes. Memories rose and fell like waves, our first summer, our first argument, his promises about snow. Those moments now felt weightless, like torn pages scattered by wind. Windsor handed me a cup of coffee. "You all right?" he asked gently. I took it, fingers brushing the warm ceramic. "I am now," I said, with certainty. I looked down at the wedding invitation in my hand, the one symbol of our future, now only a remnant of the past. The golden letters still gleamed, but they no longer held warmth. Slowly, I tore it apart. The paper ripped with a crisp sound, small, final, liberating. Windsor reached out, catching a fragment. He said nothing, only sighed, a quiet mix of regret and respect. And in that moment, I realized, perhaps we had both been imprisoned by the past too long. True freedom, I finally understood, is having the courage to face your own choices.